Okay, so now we've seen how to apply our tSNE clustering techniques to try and make sense of the data. Let's apply it to the summary data, because we understand that data set quite well, actually. When we did the clustering for this last week, we could see, there was the high volume products were clustered and the medium volume products were clustered, and then there was something else. So we know what to expect. Let's see if we can get the same results from our techniques. Okay, so again, in order to do the tSNE plots, we just need to adapt that code. All I've done is change the raw data to be the summary data, and I've set the annotations to be true. Everything else I've left unchanged, in fact. So now we're going to cluster. I think previously we clustered just parts of the data set. So now we're going to cluster the entire data set, so the price, profit, sales, marketing, cost, rather than just marketing, sales, as we did last week. And that's the picture that we get. Okay, so you can see that the k-means and clusterings, which are represented by the color, and the tSNE embeddings are obviously related, okay, because colors are put closely together. So all the blue ones are down here, all the red ones are here, all the green ones are here, and so on. Okay, so they're definitely related, but they're not strikingly similar. It's not quite as clear as the ratings, particularly as you get to higher perplexities. Okay, and you get some oddities like X and E being look like they should be part of the red cluster here, whereas they're actually blue according to k-means. But if we go back to our segmentation that we did manually way back in lecture 2, we can see that the orange, which are the high volume products, and the green are the medium volume products. So those are clearly coming out. They're clearly being extracted by both methods, both tSNE and k-means. Pick these out as similar data. What about the other ones? These two other clusters, the red and the blue ones, which tSNE sort of puts adjacent to each other. So it looks like, here they're kind of next to each other, here they're next to each other. What are those? Again, if we use this technique of overlaid radar plots, there's the high volume products. Okay, and so the thing that's driving that cluster seems to be the sales, the high volume sales. The thing that's driving this one seems to be medium volume sales. So, they're much smaller than the sales from the high volume ones, but they're close together. This is what seems to be driving that. So the rest of the other variables, the price, profit, cost, and marketing, don't seem to drive the size of that cluster. It's just, or the membership of that cluster. It's just those few. It's just the sales, in fact, from what we can see. What about the other two clusters? Well, if we drew overlaid plots for them, they seem to be distinguished by. What you're looking for is sort of consistency along one of the spokes. So, if you look at cost, there can be any cost along here, and there could be any cost along here. So cost isn't really a driving factor. Whereas if I look at the marketing, all these products are high marketing, and all these products are low marketing. So actually, it seems like the other two clusters they're both low volume, but they seem to be distinguished by their marketing spend. Okay, it's not always possible to give an exact right answer about this, but hopefully that gives us a sense of what's driving these clusters. So that's the higher marketing, lower marketing. So let's conclude the lecture then. So what we can see and what we've seen in this lecture is that by combining these two different techniques, completely different techniques, we can often identify and visualize structures in the data, and those structures will tell us something about what the data, how the data is segmented naturally. In the ratings data, there's 4 straightforward clusters, but they're not so easy to spot manually because ratings 3 and 8 seem to have no influence on the clustering. In the summary data, we get this tSNE generates that red-blue cluster that kind of gets curved and split into 2 parts. but doesn't match anything exactly that we found in lecture 2. So it looks like for the summary data, the strongest influence is the volume of sales, but then for very low volume sales, the marketing spend seems to influence how the data points are grouped. Sometimes you can't get any further than saying that seems to be what's driving the clustering, but often that can be enough. Okay, so what have we seen today? We've seen, that's the data analysis. In terms of what we've seen from the lecture, we can see that tSNE can help to visualize clusterings in high dimensions. So it helps to make sense of some of the k-means clusterings that we looked at last week. But unfortunately, there's no guaranteed method for explaining the rule behind each cluster. Sometimes that's a bit of a detective story. Radar plots, those overlaid radar plots can be really helpful, but may not work for very high dimensional data. You just end up with a complete mess. But it's worth a try. Nonetheless, I think the main conclusion to take from this is that if you're trying to do some sort of segmentation on your data set, clustering on your data set, the dimension reduction can be really helpful, and the clustering can be really helpful to get you some, rather than doing manual segmentation as we did initially in the course, the clustering and data dimension reduction can be really helpful to decide what the segmentation of the data set should be. Okay, I hope you found that interesting, and thanks for listening.